So I get close enough that I'm now committed to drop. A CHP pulls up and parks right beyond the spot fire, right, with his car. And you got about a quarter of a second to decide whether to drop the water or not. Right. And you know that some of that water is going to carry beyond that. There's nothing you can do about it.
Exactly.
So I punch off 8,333 pounds of water, and it hits the spot, carries on, hits the CHP car. Now, what also happened was this guy was supposed to be stopping the road up the hill. When he moved, everybody else moved.
Oh,
and I'm dropping water with foam, which is sleek as snake snot. I mean, this stuff, you can't even stand on it. So the water hits his car, carries across all 3 lanes of the 118 going eastbound. And the first 2 cars that come down the hill go into this stuff and spin like a pair of figure skaters. And I'm watching this. I'm rolling haircut. I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, God, it was a great career while I had one. They're probably screwed now.
Thank you. Thanks.
The water hit the spot. We put the spot out, so that was good. I got a little credit, you know.
Right.
So I pretty soon we wrap it up, and I go back to Air Ups, and the phone rings. You know, hello, this is Lee. This captain that I know is on the phone. He's like, great drop. Oh my God, we were going to the beach. He said, oh, you hit it, you nailed it. It was perfect. Great shot, Lee. But that CHP is pissed. And I'm going, well, okay. He says, I didn't tell him your name. I said, oh, good. He says, but I told him that every morning at about 7:30, this blue Subaru STI goes right by here.
Hey, welcome to Car Guy Confessions, brought to you by ARP. I'm Jeff Smith. This is my car buddy Cam Benty and car builder Steve Strope, and we're going to tell you some stories.
So welcome to another episode of Car Guy Confessions with Jeff Smith.
There we go.
My buddy Cam Benty, Steve Strope. I usually screw that up. That's why it's funny.
No, that's very good.
Yeah, so I'm you know, we've already done, what, 12 of these now? I'm finally getting the hang of it. So as usual, there's lots of stuff going on, but the question of the day really is, okay, COVID's on its way out, right? We're not going to say it's eliminated. It's on its way out. So how is that going to change the landscape of the automotive scene, car shows, things like that? Because it's likely going to be different, you know? I was involved with the Street Machine Nationals in St. Paul for several years, helping with this competition that we ran, and that show is not going to. I don't know if it's going to happen this year or not. Probably not, just because it's the LA or the fairgrounds there were just right down the street for all that chaos happened. So that there's a you know, and the Back to the 50s show was huge. There were way over 5,000 cars. It was a monster show. Ours was much smaller. I was just lightly involved with the whole thing, but you know, likely those kinds of societal things have impacted what we do, and it's a little scary in a lot of ways, you know. And
I'm most curious, as we were talking a little bit before we lit up the cameras, about there's the industry and the enthusiast, and pre and post. What's going to survive, I think, is the word. And it's interesting because the pandemic created a situation where everything was void and you weren't able to put on something like a NASCAR race or a car show or a drag race. So are those entities, NASCAR, NHRA, how starved are they? Did they lose so much money that they can't keep rolling? And just as important, are the people, since they've been away from it, do they even care to go back again?
That's what I was
Because there's been tons of talk.
Yes.
I've heard plenty of rumors and rumblings about NASCAR's losing their fan base.
Well, it was happening really before this.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, but this accelerated.
Was this the death knell?
Right.
Or did people miss it so much that they're going to come back in force? Same with NHRA. They've got their big show cars, but a lot of other stuff is suffering from that.
Right.
Not as much crowd participation and back in. So did the pandemic make a knockout punch to these associations?
Probably not for racing, no. As a whole, no. But conversely, I will champion the thought that for many years IndyCar racing was fun. The Indy 500 was cool. It's coming up here pretty quick.
Yep.
And then it lost a lot of its luster. I think there was that whole thing with kart and everything else, and they tried to make it more affordable.
I mean, cars.
Yeah. But I think now, ironically, for the last 2 years, I've been actively watching IndyCar racing, and it is a lot of fun. And it's because the drivers are so dynamic, and you got a bunch of rookies this year that are they're knocking it. And I mean, we've had, I think, 5 or 6 different winners. We haven't had a repeat winner yet. 500's coming up. And it's very, very exciting. I watched qualifying. Dixon is trying to get in the show with a Penske car. How could that possibly happen? You know, and then I don't know if you watched any of this stuff, but it was just astonishing. He is out there trying to get in the show for 32 or 33rd position, and he brushes the wall and doesn't lift. And then launches it into, because in Indy cars, you just keep it floored. And they got enough downforce that it should turn in. But if you touch the wall with your right rear, the toe just changed. You have no idea what that car is going to do. And he launched it in turn 1. I had goosebumps. It was scary. And because you don't know if he didn't know if he was going to crash. And, you know, and managed to make it in the show. That to me is ridiculously high drama. So it's cool. So there's the other side of it. I think IndyCar racing is more exciting now than it's been in maybe 15 or 20 years. It's just astonishing.
Well, my hope is that, you know, we talked to the manufacturers of automotive parts, and they have never had better years. I mean, it's very clear those guys have absolutely, they don't have enough, they can't make parts fast enough.
Yeah, now they're having sourcing problems.
We haven't talked, I mean, we talked to folks that we know near and dear, and the situation is just keeping up with demand has been all they can do, and that's an amazing thing. So what I'm hopeful
is very encouraging.
What I'm hopeful is that all those folks that were buying the parts finish their cars, and they're going to show up at a car show.
And with ARP, it's not just a lot of intake manifolds, studs for heads, but they also have a humongous selection of American and metric that we use all throughout the car, even large bolts that we use on the suspension components, because you want that same strength, that same durability and reliability, plus the beautiful looks.
And stuff outside the catalog.
Right. They have a special order program where if you're a builder and you need some special stuff made, they can do that for you. So it's an amazing, amazing company to work with.
So check them out at arp-bolts.com or check out their catalog. You'll find everything you're looking for.
Me and a couple of people that own shops, we've been talking about that massive influx that we've all felt, because there's a lot of guys who, granted, are at home buying the parts from Summit Racing or wherever and tinkering, which is awesome. Sure. But our shops are flooded also, and we're all wondering, when the stimulus checks run out,
then what happens?
Are these people doing that? Question 1, but question 2, it's not a question. I like what you said. Well, they spent all this time and money putting the car together. You'd hope they'd show up at a car show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unless they don't believe in car shows anymore and they just want to go down to the Piggly Wiggly.
But you have to. Because
anybody know what a Piggly Wiggly is?
We're all extroverts from the standpoint that you project your personality into the car, right?
Do.
You know, well, we all do. I can remember in high school. Going to a party and the guy insulted me, and a friend said, he just insulted you. I said, it's not worth the hassle. Right. Then he came back later and insulted my car, and we went outside.
Did you slap him with your glove?
No.
Sir?
But it was that was the line that then you crossed.
Sure.
So the point being, because later I thought about it, it's like, why? Me personally, I wasn't offended, but you attacked my car. Now them's fighting words, right?
Leave your mom
and
out of it.
yeah,
Right.
and so, but again, it's because you project your personality into it.
Of course.
Because I can remember I didn't exist. I didn't exist until I turned 16 and got my driver's license. And I was like, okay, I've arrived now. And all sorts of personal courage came with it,
You bet.
Which was really wonderful. Yeah. So, that's hopefully those people will see that, understand that, feel that, and then take their car and go, here I am, and
in my wondering, let's talk about that get out, is the get-together on Saturday, giant mega cars and coffee, the new Super Nationals.
Could be.
Are big companies going to throw their own super nats out in the fairground, or is everybody always get their fix?
They're already doing it
Saturday morning. I mean, it's
could
not,
very well be.
It's not happening in Oklahoma, but here in Cali, we've got a couple of places that got like 2,000, 3,000 cars.
I think it's happening everywhere.
Insane.
Now they're even butting them together. I mean, you know, the guy goes, well, on Sunday we get together at 8 to 10, and the guy goes, well, what do we do then? He says, well, there's one that starts at 10, and we go over there for 12. You know, we're gonna, So this whole thing with the cars and coffee thing has gotten crazy, and it's awesome.
It is.
Guys are going places with their cars.
For me, I would really like, though, that's great, but then they got to shut down, of course, because they got to leave the parking lot and all that whole deal. So I would think if somebody could put on a big show that, you know, and you can park there for the day and you don't have to run out of the parking lot. And it's going to be interesting because, is this the new Super Nats? There is no Super Nats.
It could very well be that it's the analogy is to the magazines, where it used to be that everything pointed towards the magazines because that's how you got your information back in the 70s because there wasn't an internet. And now with an internet, because people can connect, you don't need the big overall thing anymore because you can do it locally because you're all connected through the internet.
Right.
So, I mean, it could very well be something like that. You know, and social media, not just the internet, but the whole thing.
I'm sorry. And that also includes like car clubs and such. I mean, there was a throng of folks who always were into the car clubs, and then it kind of moved on to the forums online where people could interact and get information or whatever they were going to do. There was always a place to gather and that connection. And, you know, my wife said, don't you want to join a car club? It's like, well, I don't know. I just want to go drive my car, and I want to go down and see these folks over here. And I don't want any. You know, it's the old commitment thing. You know, we don't. How much commitment do we want? You know, I mean, that's
they want some money.
They want some money from me.
And the next thing you know, they're going to elect me president.
That's right.
You know, I don't want to do that.
I am out.
But I think most car guys really are more independent kind of people.
Absolutely.
And it's not really been necessarily a car guy. I joined the Tri-5 Club way back in the mid-'70s because I bought a 55 Chevy, and it's like, and that was good because you got connected nationwide to that deal.
Yes.
You know,
and
so
you were excited to see those folks.
Oh, absolutely,
right?
yeah.
But now we see them in a different way. And here's the other part that I like about the whole thing about the cars is I like to go places in my car. I like to get in the car and go someplace. And that to me is a lot of fun to go see some new places, you know, drive up the coast or go to some place that I haven't been.
For
to go places. And I think
check out the scene.
Right. The biggest problem we have now with the everything being busted open is the Motel 6 at the place you want to go is $400 a night because I just experienced that over the weekend. If you go to Yellowstone, you can rent a cabin for like $800 a night, and it ain't nice. It's just because things have gone crazy. This whole revenge travel thing is nuts. So I'm hoping that we get. They're trying to. I've been cooped up. I haven't been able to go anywhere. I'm going to go everywhere right now, and and that's the problem that you have. You know, rental cars are ridiculous. I mean,
really?
Oh my God. My daughter has to go up to Seattle, and a 2-day rental in Seattle is $700.
Really?
For 2 days.
Really?
So what guys are doing is they're renting U-Hauls to go wherever they got to go. So it's this crazy deal where all those cube vans are showing up, and you know, in Hawaii it's crazy.
It's cheaper.
In Hawaii, it's $600
in an F-350 cube van.
That's right.
Pulling up. That's right. This is going to be great.
This is going to be great.
You
got a bar in the back.
And her father is going, not on your life, buddy.
In Hawaii, a rental car is $700 a day.
Wow.
So this is but this will all settle down. It'll all go back. The problem was they didn't have any cars because people weren't making cars.
Right.
So they couldn't get the cars. They didn't need the cars. They didn't buy cars. So anyway, so that's all going to settle down. But I really enjoy going places in my car and going seeing different stuff and different people and sharing stuff, and people come up to the car, look at it, goes, hey, that's pretty cool. I mean, they don't have to stroke my ego everywhere, but of course it helps.
And I think too that, you know, for a lot of years, maybe guys were saying, well, there'll be another show next year, but there wasn't one last year, and it's like, let's just go. Let's just go. Let's have some fun.
I'll be interested to see the Big East outside of our manufacturing, like SEMA. You know, that's its own different world, and we'll leave that alone for now. But stuff like the Grand National Roadster Show that all of us missed last year, the guys that were part of it, and the Father's Day show. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a, it's like I'm starved for it.
Right.
Let's
hope so.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
I am. I can't wait to be. That's my favorite show to go to.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. So I'm very curious to see what this begat.
Yeah.
Where it's going to go. Like, because it's interesting. You said, people started going to the forums instead of the car club. Now it's a forum, and because of COVID, it now swaying the other way to everybody's out and going to a cars and coffee of some sort.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They're back out congregating and having their own group again.
Socialization. Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting to see, because there's going to be an evolution.
Yep.
And where that goes and how strong it is. But I'm very curious about racing in all forms, because with everything with the kind of anti, we're the horrible fossil fuel footprint. We're the evil.
We're the evil empire.
You can just
right?
see my horns from here. Well, that's for other reasons anyway. But
all you gotta do is just turn to the E85, man.
Yeah, I know. You in the E85. Yeah. I gotta have a gas tank the size of the Queen Mary to get down the street.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
But it'll be interesting to see if fan bases, because they were wavering before the pandemic.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So are they missing that and come back in full strength, or does it?
Part of it is it's all visceral, right? That's the whole thing with cars. It's about being visceral.
It's visceral.
And I hear we have a guest that
a guest who's
that you could define as
he's pretty visceral,
emphasizing visceral.
He's
right?
done some pretty some stuff that I ain't doing.
Yeah.
So and
it goes beyond cars.
Yeah, it goes beyond cars. This
so we're gonna
guy's
expand
up in
your
the air.
horizons a little bit here.
Yeah. We'll bring him in a second. His name is Lee Benson, and we're going to let you learn more about him. He'll tell you his background, but I thought it'd be a cool thing. He's a friend and a customer of mine, and I've gone to lunch with him numerous times and just kept hearing these stories of what he's done. I'm like, you're crazy, but in a good way.
I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely.
So we'll break and we'll get Lee up here. And who's getting kicked out?
Me.
You're leaving?
This is your guy.
Okay.
This is your guy. So I will be
so
over here
you sit right
serving
there,
drinks.
And we'll be
just through the magic of technology, they'll probably be cutting me off right now.
So one of the things I like to do is always assemble an engine with ARP bolts, and it's not just because they're sponsors, but because it really does work. And the stuff is fantastic. I never have to worry about it. Steve, you building cars too.
Yeah, actually, it's part of my baseline design plan when I'm building a car that's going to be shown or featured in a magazine. It's part of the plan,
right?
To have that little bit of diamonds all over the engine bay or in the suspension.
Yeah, the stuff is beautiful. I remember a long time ago, I built the first time I ever touched it, 69 Z28. All of the water jacket holes had stripped out, and I learned about ARP studs.
So check them out at arp-bolts.com or check out their catalog. You'll find everything you're looking for.
We'd like to thank one of our new sponsors, Granatelli Motorsports. We've known JR for a long time.
Absolutely,
Joe,
yes. Comes from a very famous family.
Yes, Turbine Indy cars come to mind. But,
yes.
And his father, Joe, was working on that as well. But JR, always innovative, comes up with a lot of engineering projects that turn into really interesting street projects. One of his latest is an electronic exhaust cutout that allows you to open the exhaust so you can hear the exhaust.
There you go.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of
loud
different,
and obnoxious.
Yes, exactly. And there are a lot of different sciences behind the how the exhausts open and close. There's guillotine, there's flapper doors, but this actually has a computer chip in it, and it actually is a one-touch deal. You touch it, opens. There's not like you have to hold it. Some of them you have to hold.
Right.
This one, it just wide open or closed, because it's just a really nice piece, and it's typical of what happens with Granatelli Motorsports. The stuff that they build is top notch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So go to granatellimotorsports.com and check them out.
All right, so through the magic of technology, here is Lee Benson. Now, Lee Benson is a friend. He's also a customer of my shop. That's how I met him. And so, of course, the first way I came in contact with him was automotive, high-performance stuff. First, it was through a Barracuda, a muscle car. He also has a street rod. He also has, can we call it a supercar? It's in the form of a supercar. It's beyond sports car. Yeah. And we'll talk about what those are. But then I started learning more about him, and he is I'll just brag for you, a very decorated helicopter pilot in the, well, first in the military in Nam.
In Vietnam.
And then doing commercial stuff.
Yeah.
And then wound up being the captain.
No.
Not the chief pilot. I keep saying captain. Sorry.
Every single time.
I know. I there's so much to learn. So chief pilot for
LA County Fire Department.
Right. So he won't brag how many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of lives that he's saved over the how many years?
27.
27 years in flight. But so we're going to go backwards. Actually, let's start with the car stuff. And then we're going to go to some of his stories. I just want him to tell these because the truth is stranger than fiction. So, met you on your Barracuda, your notchback.
No, you met me on the Ultima.
That's right, the Ultima.
Yeah.
That is right.
Oh,
so he's got he had
an LS motor or a small block Chevy?
LS.
And it's a screamer. Actually,
it's very fast.
If our producers will allow, he's got a semi-grainy video, but the audio, you won't believe this is an LS motor. It's right now. You geeks can go and Google an Ultima GTR.
Right. Yeah.
It is very wrong to call it a kit car. It is not a kit car. It is an engineered supercar that utilizes a Chevy LS platform for the engine.
Yes.
Right. Basically.
Right. Correct. Yes.
And also has been used for comparison in engineering and design for other very famous.
It was the mule for the original McLaren F1, and it was also the mule for the McLaren, the new McLaren that they're building right now.
So they use that as a comparison of this is a benchmark.
They used it for a mule. They took components that were going to go on those cars, put them on an Ultima, and then tested them on that car.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Impressive
cool.
cars.
Well, if McLaren thinks that much of it, obviously it's a pretty decent car. So you guys can go check out more on it, but it's a fantastic car. And you had the first yellow one that is sold, and now you have the new one that's almost done being built.
Right. Yes.
And so then the Barracuda and my shop.
At your shop.
Right.
What your Barracuda?
69 Barracuda Coupe.
Okay, the early body stuff.
Early body.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot of cool modern suspension under it and tubs and a whole lot of neat stuff. And that's in construction.
That's in construction. And one of the cool things about that car is it has the only, to my knowledge, the only Chrysler built 426 all aluminum Hemi, Gen 3 Hemi that Chrysler's ever built. Wow. That was a task to get that motor.
And that was a workhorse or a prototype
engineering engine?
It was an engineering engine, and then they put it on the online to be sold. And of course, like most Chrysler stuff, it was way too much money. Mm-hmm. And then idiot Benson came along and bought it. So the funny story is,
Money be damned.
Yeah, I got to meet the guy that actually had to go they had lost it. They put it online, but nobody bought it because it was too much damn money.
So they didn't know where they stored it.
They didn't know where they stored it.
Right.
So I go to SEMA one year and I go, I bought this, all aluminum 426 Gen 3 Hemi from you guys. No. We never built one of those. Let's go talk to Bob. We go to Bob. Bob says, no. Let's go talk to Steve. So we go to talk to Steve. Steve goes, you're the guy that bought that. I said, yeah. And he goes,
that guy.
Well, what are you putting in it? And I said, a 69 Barracuda Coupe. And he goes, perfect. So 5 months. Wow. 5 months to get the motor.
Wow. And they found it in a warehouse or
down in a warehouse.
Because I did a story for the Holly's online thing in which we did everything you ever wanted to know about the Gen 3 Hemi. They talked me into doing because I'm a GM guy, and it was a very difficult story. But I have a friend of mine who used to work for Chrysler, Bill Hancock, who turned me on to another guy who was my godsend, my source, who was one of the engineers at. With Chrysler, and he said, yeah, I said, why didn't they ever build an aluminum Hemi? Because they just didn't want to. They didn't feel it was necessary, and ridiculously durable, so they didn't have to. But the weight gain would have been fantastic, and at least another 120 pounds probably.
The all aluminum Gen 3 426 Hemi that's going in my Barracuda weighs 60 pounds less than the 340 that would have came out.
That came out of it, yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
And the Hemis already make stupid power. So I mean, crazy stuff. Yeah. So yeah, very cool.
So he has a little Lakester, little open-aired roadster. And that's got again. We're going to put pictures up. I actually put a picture up of it, and everybody count the intake ram horns. There's 5 of them. It's a 5-cylinder, and it looks exotic as can be, and it's cool as hell. But it's from a
Chevrolet Colorado.
Yeah,
super
cool.
One of the Atlas family.
Okay,
right. Super cool.
Yeah.
So it's one of the Zipper
Lakester,
Zipper Lakester, but with a 5-cylinder that's been individual throttle bodied.
Yep.
Manual transmission.
Yes.
And I've driven it. It's loads of fun. It's a fun little vehicle. So he has a wide variety of vehicles, from a super sports car to a muscle car to a street rod, and probably one of my favorites, though, he is the original owner. Bought it new. You have a Renault
I have an R5 Turbo 2, which has been modified to be a Maxi 5.
Right, and so you kids are going to have to Google that.
Yeah.
But it's a mid-engine Renault that they built 20?
20
the original.
And this fits into what we were talking about earlier about the rally racing.
Yeah.
Because that's what that car was designed for.
Yeah, they built 20 of them to be legal to run in rally.
Ridiculously fast for as small as it is. They're very deceiving looking cars, and they're ridiculously fast.
In 1984, when it came out, right, it had a whopping 185 horsepower. And you think, 185 horsepower. At that time, it was king of the hill.
Yeah,
I mean, it surprised a lot of people.
Yeah.
Fun car.
And,
Yep.
And again, we'll put the photos up. His is set up in a very specific livery.
Yep.
Right, of a race that you attended.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And you really, really liked how the car looked in the livery of it, so you decided to have yours in that livery.
Yeah.
But yours is an actual real deal, but then modified with the correct parts to become a Maxi.
Exactly.
Right.
It's I attended the 1985 Tour de Corse on the island of Corsica and watched Jean Regnati win that race in those colors.
Right,
So,
in that livery.
Yeah.
So super, super cool. He's well balanced.
It sounds
You know what I'm saying? What a cool collection, and they're all not of the norm.
Or eclectic.
Yeah, sure, eclectic's a good call.
Yes.
So, but what fascinated me with our friendship is the evolution of conversations at lunch that started telling me about the past histories of flight, let alone the funny stuff that had happened when you accidentally dropped some of the fire retardant on people's cars in neighborhoods. And
I hear that stuff's very sticky. I hear it's very sticky.
Yeah. But there was now you have some cliff notes, but there's one I don't think it's part of it. So it was a story you were telling me that you were, and please correct me if I don't have the details right.
I certainly will.
Yes, I'm sure you will. You were flying brass into a combat zone, and you had to land very quickly. I think I remember you were coming in and had to drop real fast. Am I remembering that, or can you not?
Your memory sucks, Steve.
Okay. Well, hey.
Well, what we were doing was we were taking these people in. They were going to have lunch with the province chief's house, right? So we go in to land at this province capital. This is in South Vietnam during the war. And where the heliport's at, somebody's put a 105 howitzer. So now we can't land on the heliport. So Lee decides, look at this nice open space here that I can land the helicopter in. There's a building here to the right, but I think that'll be fine. So we come in at a vertical hover and let down 100 feet. And unfortunately, the province's entire rice crop was in this building, and we blew it over. The building literally fell over, and the rice fell into the river.
Oh,
it was not a good day.
That was not a good day. Yeah.
So that later,
make a positive impression on those people.
Later that afternoon, we go back to pick these folks up. Well, we're not going back there.
Don't go back there.
So I decided, co-pilot's his turn to fly, and I said, look, let's just tow in, put the toes on the pad where the howitzer's at, and get them off of there, and hopefully none of those people will shoot at us while we're sitting here.
Right.
So we go in, and he puts the toes on the deal, and they've got the cannons, the rounds stacked like firewood right here, And as he turns to leave, he touched one of them. And they all rolled down into the river. So I get back to Cantota, where I'm based out of, and before I even get the helicopter shut down, one of the people comes out and says, Mr. Benson, Major Daniloff would like to see you in his quarters. So I go in to see him, and he's like, we're over here trying to win the hearts and minds of these people, and you're destroying their rice. It wasn't a good conversation, let's put it that way.
Was there one that I'm almost remembering correctly about you flew brass somewhere?
Yeah.
I know there was brass you flew.
We flew. One day, I flew for a guy by the name of John Paul Van. John Paul Van ran the CIA in Vietnam. That's what his job was.
Okay.
So my roommate was the commanding general of Four Corps pilot. So whenever anybody came into town that outranked that general, they wanted 2 aircraft commanders on board. And the reason for that was so they'd have 2 of us to shoot instead of 1 if anything went wrong.
Good thinking.
So we've got, believe it or not, we have Ambassador Ellsworth Bunker, the ambassador to Vietnam.
Yes.
General Creighton Abrams, General Westmoreland.
Yikes.
Our general, and John Paul Van on in the aircraft.
That's
right.
Pretty much everybody.
That's everybody. Yeah, that's the overhead for South Vietnam.
All in one chopper?
All in one chopper, yep.
Oh, man. I'm surprised they did that.
So we're going into a place called Mukwa, and we'll do the typical tactical approach, and into the spot we go. And on the way in, we got hit in tail boom twice.
Wow.
And Larry, my friend, other aircraft commander, we kind of looked at each other and went, I don't know what that is. So we put it on the pad, right? And we shut down. It's a safe area. We shut down. And Larry and I get out. Larry Thomas, that was his name. We get out. We're looking, and there's these 2 bullet holes through the tail boom, right? Wow. So pretty soon, one of the aides looks over and comes over. What are you guys up to? Oh, we got hit on the way in. No. We said, we got hit on the way in. What do you mean we got hit on the way in? Well,
see these holes?
See the holes? Yeah, we got hit. So the next thing I know, I'm standing in this group. All these generals wanted a picture of them next to the tail
because
boom,
they had taken fire.
pointing at the holes. So I figured, they probably all got distinguished flying crosses. For being on the
DFCs.
That was the story.
Wow. Okay. Creighton Abrams and Westmoreland. Yikes.
Yeah, they were all there.
And Bunker. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
So.
Yeah.
Go down the list, because I've heard these.
Can we first just talk about choppers for a second?
Sure.
Because my dad was a chopper pilot for a while. We talked about this off camera. But you fly with all 4 appendages.
Yes.
And then you said that sometimes you fly with all 4 appendages plus 2 thumbs.
Yes, plus your index finger.
And index finger.
Yeah.
That's just astonishing.
And for you kids playing all your really high-tech video games, there's no
reset
button when you're in a $14 billion aircraft and it crashes.
So basically, you've got rudder pedals for your feet.
Pedals for your feet.
Then you've got left hand is up and down, which is collective, which changes the pitch on the rotor blades.
You listen to your dad, I can see.
Yes, and throttle on the end like a motorcycle.
Yeah, but most of this is turbine, so it rolls up, but
rolls up and then it's there. Okay, and then you still have the stick, which is like a
not yaw,
pitch and yaw
and pitch.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So all those things are happening all at once.
Yeah, then thumb for trim on the cyclic and thumb on the collective in some aircraft to match the RPM on a twin engine.
On a twin engine.
Finger,
yeah.
Twin
So then we'll see photos from Afghanistan where they're dropping guys off on these Chinooks.
Yeah,
and
the tailgate on the back.
The tailgate on the only thing that's touching is the tailgate and maybe one wheel to stabilize it, and these guys, and they're getting maybe 20 guys on or off the chopper. So of course, as they're loading or unloading, the perspective or the pitch on the aircraft is going to change because the weight's changing significantly. Yeah. Those guys are magicians. Yeah, because it's one thing to fly a fixed-wing aircraft. It's something, and I'm not a pilot, but it's something else with all those appendages working all at the same time.
Yeah, to give you an example, LA County Fire Department has Blackhawks that we call Firehawks, which we converted into the most advanced public safety aircraft in the world, literally.
Wow.
And I had a lot to do with that. I was very proud to say I had a lot to do with it. When we're putting water on the aircraft, we're putting on 185 pounds a second into the aircraft. And think, you guys are mechanical, the guys listening to this.
Yes.
We're putting on 8,333 pounds of water in 45 seconds, and we're moving at 12 feet up. And the amount of power it takes to do that is amazing.
Wow. So you're constantly
in the Firehawk.
What's the what?
What's the power?
1,900 horsepower per side, so 3,800.
3,800 horsepower.
Yeah.
Yikes! So you're at a hover pulling this water up out of a lake, right?
Yeah.
And the whole time you're gaining,
Compensating.
Yeah. Man, that's amazing. That and the stuff is just astonishing, you know. So now we can get into the fun stuff. But I wanted to kind of put that on perspective, because everybody watching this is somewhat mechanical, and you start thinking about the power levels and all the dynamics that you have to have, and it's amazing.
Yeah. So you're flying it with everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
All at once.
Yeah.
And it's constantly changing, and so after a while, it's muscle memory. You know what to do. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
It's like driving F1 cars. I mean, I don't know how those guys do that because
you know what's interesting was I played pretty competitive tennis in my life for many years, and the better you get, the slower the game is.
Yes.
It's the same thing with the helicopters. The more experience you've got, the more time you got to think about what you're doing.
Yep.
You actually, when you're first in, it's like things are coming at you at 120 miles an hour, and it's like this. And then when you get some experience, it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, that's going to happen, and this is going to happen, and I'm going to do this, and it's a lot calmer.
When I first started taking driving courses, you know, road racing courses, the instructor said, fast in the cockpit is slow on the race course, and slow in the cockpit is fast on the race course. And it sounds very simple. It's absolutely 100% true, but it's ridiculously difficult to pull off. And then you have to add the gut factor, you know. So like when we did the one road race car with my buddy Tim Moore, who's since passed away, that was my job. I was a designated driver because he couldn't fit in the car, and turn 8 wide open throttle. That's what I was supposed to do. I never got there at Willow. Yes.
I never got there either.
Oh man, it's so hard to, you know. It's like, okay, this time I'm gonna do it, and you plant the throttle coming down the straightaway, and it's like, okay, here I'm going to turn in. It's like, and your foot just does this, and I'll go right back in, but. You know, you lifted because it would puff a little bit of flame out the exhaust, and he instantly knew that I'd lifted.
Yeah, when I ran, we used to run the Renault quite a bit on track days, and we'd run at Willow.
Short.
Yeah, and I had this one guy, Marshall was his name, and he was a very good driver, and he had a Corvette, and he kept running a little bit faster lap time, right? And I kept thinking, wait a minute, every time I get around this guy, I'm faster, right? I beat him here, I beat him there, I beat him there. What the hell's going on? Get behind him and find out. So we go down the straightaway, and I managed to make it so I was behind him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, and I'm right there, and I'm thinking I could have gained a little here, I could have gained a little there, and we're charging down into turn 8, right? And all of a sudden that Corvette went, ping! And I went, oh,
He's not lifting.
He's not lifting, and I am.
Yeah. It probably costs seconds.
Yeah.
Seconds, you know, which is just a killer.
The other fun story about stuff like that is the other chief, there was 2 chief pilots at LA County Fire because of the 24/7 deal. The other chief pilots and my wife got together, his wife, and bought us a weekend course at Jim Hall go-karts, right? So we're out there and we're racing these go-karts. And we show up the first day and we've got our county flight suits on, right, with the batches taken off, and our flight gloves, and right, we got a helmet, of course. Yeah. And there's these like 6 kids, and they're all like 12 years old, and they're the next Emerson Fittipaldi, Lewis Hamilton, you know, whatever. Right. And they're looking at these 2 old guys going, where did these guys come from? And so they go through and they give the whole course, and Gary Burtz is the other senior pilot, and he goes, we're out there and we're running our lap. You know how they do it. You work on the braking drills and the corner drills and all this stuff. And I got deeper and deeper into this one corner and finally looped it, and you had to come back in. And the guy says, what happened? I said, I kept moving the braking point. I went a little bit too far. Yeah. I'll just back it up a little bit. He said, go. Yeah. So at the end of the deal, you do time lapse. So all these kids are like, I'm the fastest, right? Carry on our center. So we run the times, and the instructor, all these kids are like punching each other. Yeah. Okay, fastest time for the weekend, Mr. Benson. They're like, really? What? Second fastest time for the day, Mr. Burtz. Yeah. Now, I will say, Gary outweighed me by about 40 pounds. Wow. So you know,
if you leveled it out, he
leveled it out. He'd have probably beat me. And then the kids fell off, and then they said, and oh, by the way, you know, Mr. Burtz, Mr. Benson's time for the lap was like 25.4, 25.4, 25.4, you know, 25.3.
Really hard to do.
And the guy walked up after it. He goes, all right, you know, you guys have been here all weekend. Who the hell are you? And we told him, you know, what we did. And he goes, well, you guys probably get some instruction on. And we said, like every 6 months, we go for a week and get our ass ripped by professionals. Yeah. We can take instruction. We got this part figured out.
We got this figured out. Good stuff. Good stuff.
A lot of fun. Oh, bear story. So I'm up in Alaska. I fly down the chain about 1,000 miles. You're in the middle of nowhere. We go offshore to a place called Unga Island. It's got the largest gold mine in the world prior to World War I. So they're going to go in the mine. I'm carrying 2 geologists. They're going to go in the mine and do whatever they do as geologists. And then they're going to come out and go home and decide where they're going to start this mine back up. So they leave me outside in case something bad happens. I can't go inside. I had never panned for gold. But the one geologist, Frank Hollister, this was 1973, I still remember his name, he showed me how to pan for gold, right? He says, get it about this far. See all that little gold stuff in there? That's gold. Yeah. He said, get it this far, put it in the big bottle, I'll clean it up for you tonight. Okay, so, and I'm out there all day, right? Yeah. So we go back to the hotel that night, or the hotel, yeah, right. Okay, we go back to the lodge that night. The lodge. And he actually, I had a bottle of gold, probably about that tall and about that big around, which was probably about 3 times my monthly salary at that time. So I put that in my bag. So then Frank Hollister and I, we leave the other geologist, I don't remember his name, you'll see why in a second, on that island, and we go across back onto the main stretch of Alaska. And we're flying down this ridge line at about 50 feet, about 50 knots. I'm looking for somewhere to park this thing. And if you can think of a disc brake with a caliber, it's mounted right below the drive shaft and right below the engine on a Jet Ranger. So I'm flying along, and all of a sudden a 105 round goes off in the back of the helicopter, literally the loudest bang you've ever heard in your life. And the nose goes flying off to the right. So I think I've had a tail rotor failure. So I snap the throttle shut, and we start auto-rotating. No, helicopters don't crash just because the engine quits. We start auto-rotating down, and I look across, and the valley between us and the next ridge line is nothing but rocks as big as this building. So that ain't going to work.
That's not going to work.
So we finally stretched the glider. There's a way to do that. It's technical. And, you know, we got it across this second ridge line, and we auto-rotate down onto the flat and put it down with no further damage, right? So I get out of the helicopter, and Frank and I have a bar mitzvah right there on the spot. I mean, we're pretty happy campers. There's no doubt about that. And I'm thinking, what the hell happened to this helicopter, right? And I tried to roll the engine back up after I'd snapped it shut because I thought the tail rotor had quit. I tried to roll it back up, and it just bang, bang. Well, no, that ain't going to work. So I get out on the right side. I look back down the tail boom, and the tail rotor's spinning to a stop normally. And I'm thinking, well, in the tail rotor. Okay. And I get out, and I walk around the nose, and I look up on the left-hand side, and the engine cowling is gone. So the immediate reaction is, Benson, you screwed up. You didn't shut that cowling. It came off in flight. That's what the bang was. How could I? This is stupid, right? So I get up. There's a little platform there. I get up there, and I look inside the engine compartment, and the first 5 stages of the engine are gone. Just gone. They're not there anymore.
Stages as in a series of blades. Compressor
just like a
blades.
Turbo. Right. It'd be like a turbo. 5 stages of turbo. Then there's a big centrifugal. That's another story. So I look at that, and I think, no, I didn't do that. That's not my fault.
This is foreign object damage.
This foreign object, yeah, something happened. So I look, and the rotor brake, there's only about an eighth of it or maybe a quarter of it left on the shaft. So you can imagine that shaft is spinning at 6,600 RPM, and 3/4 of the rotor left the aircraft. That's what took
the door off.
Took the door off.
Shrapnel.
And the other part went through the floor, through the roof. The floor is titanium, by the way. Went through the floor, through the roof, through the baggage compartment, and out the bottom.
Wow.
So now what are we going to do? Well, we're going to try to get ourselves rescued. Yeah. So we have an ELT, an emergency locator transmitter. And I'm thinking, we're going to put this up on the highest point there is, which would be up on the top of the main rotor blade, right? And I said, and Frank says, what are we going to do now? And I said, well, we'll put it up there. And he says, how about that mountain? I said, well, Frank, that mountain's like 3 miles and 3,000 feet from where we're standing. He goes, Lee, I'm the vice president of the British Columbia Mountaineering Club. He said, that's a walk in the park. I said, okay.
Okay.
Here's the ELT. This is how you turn it on. And oh, by the way, here's my 44 Magnum, right? Because we're bear country.
Yeah.
Right?
And bears are big.
And he's like, he's Canadian. Oh, no, we can't touch a weapon. I mean, that's not allowable. I'm going, okay. So he takes off with the ELT, and I'm sitting in the helicopter. And all of a sudden, you hear this snapping and growling, and I look out the window, and here's this Arctic fox with froth coming out of its mouth, obviously rabbit, trying to get in the helicopter with me.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. So I decided to get out of the other side of the helicopter and get on top, because I am a chicken. There's no doubt about it. And I'm not a country boy. I'm a city.
Yeah.
Camping to me is Motel 6. So I'm up on top of the helicopter, and now the fox trying to get up the side of the helicopter. So I finally decide, yeah, I think we got to shoot the fox.
Yeah.
So I pull out the 44 Magnum, which is hot loaded. It's got pretty hot rounds in it, right? And I cock it, and I had never fired it one-handed for a good reason. And I'm kind of, hanging on to the mast with one hand so I don't fall off. And I'm pointing the weapon with the other, and I get them all lined up, and I fire the gun, and the gun goes bang and hits the blade, and I drop the pistol.
Oh, no.
And the pistol falls to the ground next to the dead fox. Whew, thank you.
Okay.
So I get out.
Climb
down. We had a shovel, dig a little hole, put the fox in there without touching him, put some jet fuel on top of him, light it off, let it burn. Then I bury him up, trying to figure, get rid of the rabies.
Right.
So, hour goes by. All of a sudden I hear this.
We picked up the gun, right?
Oh, yeah. Hey, Lee. That sounds like Frank. So I get out of the helicopter. I'm walking out there. Frank's coming at me at a pretty good trot, right? And he's coming at me. Hey, Lee, there's a bear. And I look over his shoulder, and here's this grizzly bear is coming along behind him, right? Uh-oh.
And those bears they can run fast.
They're no problem.
Yeah.
This bear stops about 40 yards from the helicopter in the middle of a blueberry field and sits down and starts eating. And we're sitting in the helicopter going, stay there, bear?
Yeah, please stay there.
Please stay there. So it's a day and a half later, the Coast Guard finally finds us.
You were there for a day and a half?
We were there for a day and a half.
Did the bear hang around a long time?
Bear was there the whole time.
The whole time?
Oh, yeah.
Yikes.
Sleeping in the chin bubble of a Gel Jet Ranger? Yeah, not a good idea.
Not a good fun.
Knees here, legs up on top of the seat, and your body up in the chin bubble. Of course, you gave the customer the back seat, which is almost as bad. Yeah. So the Coast Guard shows up, and we're on the radio like, we're here, mayday. And the guy, calm down. We know where you're at. We're going to be there. Well, the ELT's not where we're at. We're X miles to the east. And he goes, okay. So he comes over there. He goes, anybody hurt? Can we get you anything? Can we help you? Well, no, we're not hurt. Blah, blah, blah. And he goes, there's nothing we can do. I said, well, there is this bear. And he goes, where? And I said, about 40 yards, 11 o'clock to the helicopter. There's a bear there. He's been there for a day and a half. Any chance you could run him off? Oh, yeah. You could almost hear the crew in the C-130.
They're like, all right.
All right.
Yeah.
So they go out over the water and come down to about 50 feet with a C-130.
Yeah, which is a big aircraft.
Wow, right over the top of this bear. The bear jumps up in the air, poops all over himself, and starts running right at the helicopter.
Oh, good.
Oh, crap.
He goes by about...
Stop scaring the bear.
Yeah.
It's negative. It's a bear.
He goes by about 30 yards behind the helicopter, never to be seen again.
He goes back there with his bear friends.
Yeah,
you should have
seen it
today.
So then they brought down a new engine and a new drive shaft.
Oh, can we rebuild the chopper there?
Oh, yeah, we built it right there.
Wow.
So they bring down a new engine, a drive shaft. We change the drive shaft. A C20, which weighs, give it out, motorheads, think about this. A C20 weighs 156 pounds and it makes 420 horse.
Yahoo. Power to weight.
And now the turbines, it's even greater than that by a bunch.
Yeah.
So we put it in there by hand, the two of us. We get it all set up, and now we're going to take off and go back to Anchorage, right? Well, we climbed about 10,000 feet. Why do we climb to 10,000 feet? Because I've had the shit scared out of me, and I don't want to be any lower.
And so you could auto-rotate forever.
Yeah, forever. We have options now. So we're flying about 10,000 feet, and the mechanics are smoking. And he's going, could we get a little bit lower? No.
No, we're not.
Staying up here.
If you had a bear chasing you.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have paid, that would have been a perfect comedy movie when they do that dive over the bear just runs towards you and you go, shit. Yeah. No, shit.
Yeah. All good comedies actually based on real
Bear,
life stuff.
Bear.
Yeah.
Incoming bear.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's perfect. Oh, I love, and I think it's on there, the one, I think it's still in Alaska, where the guy with the stop sign in the road.
Yeah.
This is beyond precious. This needs to be in a movie, this right here.
So we're in Fairbanks, and we're going to Tonsina Lodge, and we're...
And what is that?
It's in the middle of Alaska. Alaska's a big state.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's on the Copper River. Did that tell you anything else?
Yeah. So this lodge is in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere.
Like a halfway spot between A and B.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Kind of where the humans are.
Kind of where the humans are. Yeah,
okay.
Kind of, more or less.
All right. So you're flying there because
I'm going from the end of one contract to the beginning of another one.
Right.
So,
and that's going to be a stop-off point.
Yeah, that's going to spend the night.
Got it.
So I take off by myself out of Fairbanks, and I'm going up the road, and we're going to Grand Delta for fuel first. And I look down.
Now, you're not going up the road, but you're following a road.
Following the road.
Flying.
With IFR. I follow roads.
Right.
So
follow roads.
I start up the road, right, and I look down, and there's a person out there hitchhiking. Why not?
Everyone paying attention, he's flying a helicopter.
So I go and land. You know, it's in Alaska, so you can land on a road. Nobody's going to show up for a while.
Right.
I land, and I look over, and I'm going like, well, give me a ride. And this girl is like, and I'm, come on over. So she finally comes over. I open the door. You know, I get her in there, and I said, "Where are you going?" She says, "Grand Delta." And I said, "Well, that's where I'm headed. Sit back and relax.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there in about an hour." Off we go to Grand Delta. Never says a word. The entire thing, she's sitting like
probably terrorized,
right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling her, relax, it's okay. When I get excited, then get excited.
Yes.
Meantime, everything's fine. Look out the window. Enjoy the view.
Enjoy the scenery.
So we go to Grand Delta. We let her off. I told her to wait till the blade stopped. She didn't. She gets out of the door. She turns around. She looks at me and she goes, and walks away. Didn't know what to say.
My friends will never believe
They'll
this.
never believe it. So I get fuel, and I take off and go to Tonsina. We're going up, actually up the valley that the Valdez pipeline is in.
Okay.
Beautiful country. Copper River's there, really pretty. And we're going up, and it's a very steep valley, and we've got about a 200-foot ceiling, but good visibility underneath, so it's fine. And there aren't any wires in Alaska at that time to even worry about. And I come around the corner.
Wires being electrical wiring,
Power lines. Yeah, not our friends.
No.
Right. Not our friends.
So I look down on the road, and this guy they're running construction on the highway, so he's got his stop sign out. I stopped the helicopter, right?
Right above him.
Right above him. I'm looking down. Yeah. He's
sign at the helicopter.
He's looking up at me going, wait a minute. So he finally turns
Does
the
he
sign
turn
on.
it to the go?
Yeah, he turns it to the go, and I took off. So I go to Tonsina Lodge, and I land, this is back in the old days.
He's like, I got power.
Yeah.
Let's stop aircraft.
Look at me.
This is back in the old days. This is late 70s. And in Alaska, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted to with a helicopter.
Right.
The FAA still had a sense of humor. They don't have a sense of humor
they
anymore.
Probably don't anymore, no.
So I land at Tonsina, and I get out. I park it right in, next to the lodge on the lawn out front. And I go in, and I'm having dinner, and I've got a jacket on that says Era Helicopters. That's who I was working for at the time. And that crew came in. And the kid looks at me, and he goes, You're the guy. You were, because the helicopter's sitting right there. You were the one who stopped when I put the stop sign on. I said, uh-huh.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, why did you do that? And I said, well, up here they use explosives when they work on roads. Oh. So if I went around the corner and you guys were going boop, with a big dynamite, it could be really ugly.
That would not be a good day.
And I can only, the ceiling's 200 feet, so I can only get so high.
Right.
And he goes, oh, I never thought of that. And I said, that's why you got the sign and I fly the helicopter.
Fly the helicopter.
He'll be here all week, folks. Try the veal. Tip your server.
Yeah. So
that
then,
is beyond precious.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
Then I got to work for the fire department, right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. If you folks knew the humor behind the fire department, politically incorrect, that the woke folks would throw us out of the country immediately. We have this guy. He's riding a dirt bike in Hungry Valley. You've probably been up there. I'm sure you have also. And there's these signs that say, do not go beyond here. Well, this kid's 17. He knows better. Oh, of course. We all knew better when we were 17 years old.
That's right.
And goes up the hill. The reason there's a sign that says do not pass this deal is a 185-foot cliff just beyond it. So he goes up the hill and then realizes that there's a cliff and hits the brakes and goes.
Wile E. Coyote.
Wile E. Coyote, yes. And this is all sandstone, so it's kind of shaped like an hourglass. And this bike, and he fall off this cliff and get funneled down through this first deal and then fall some more and get funneled down through the next thing. But
like a pinball.
Like a pinball.
Pachinko game.
Well, I'm assuming that's what happened. I'm thinking that's what happened. I know he knew it was a cliff because I could see the skid marks where he tried to stop. So the bike, this thing actually narrows down to a pretty narrow thing, right? And the bike hit first, and he landed on top of the bike. So we show up, and Frank Morozic was my paramedic. Ow. Frank Morozic was probably the 12th or 13th paramedic in the United States.
Wow.
Right? He was around when JC was wearing sandals. We're flying over the top of this incident, and the guy's down there, and Frank looks out the window and says, call Noguchi, who was the coroner for LA County at that time. and I'm like, well, we got to land and see what happened. Besides, we might want something off the bike. Okay. So we land. One of the paramedics gets out, and he goes over there. Now, he can't get directly to the guy. He's actually reaching up through the bike to touch the guy.
Oh, so he didn't. He's
on top of the bike, and the bike didn't make it.
Didn't make it to the end because it funneled down too far.
So he reaches up and grabs the guy, and he says, you ain't going to believe this, but this guy's alive. Wow. We're like, whoa, okay.
Now you got to winch him out.
Now we're going to get him out, right? Well, we got to hoist. So we go up to the cliff that he came off of, right? And the reason we knew it was 187 feet was because there's a digital readout on the cable.
On the cable.
187 feet later, we finally get down to this guy. Wow. They wrap him up. They pull him back up to the aircraft. We take off. We're going to Henry Mayo Hospital. The guy's, he's with us. You know, he's not dead yet. So we're flying to Henry Mayo. Good. And Frank looks at me and he goes, you know what's really sad about this, Lee? And I'm thinking, this is going to be good. I've been around this guy for a while. This is going to be good. I said, what's that, Frank? And I'm trying to fly at the same time. He goes, this kid's 17 years old. I said, yeah. He says, so he goes off the cliff. Yeah. His whole life flashes in front of him. I said, yeah. He's only halfway down. He had to watch reruns for the rest of the way. The kid lived. The kid lived. He actually came into air ops.
Resilience of youth.
Yeah. He actually came into air ops about 4 months later on crutches, but, you know, he was okay.
Wow.
And, yeah, he survived.
And he will follow signs from now on, probably.
I doubt it. He's 17.
If you're that kid, please write in below. It would just sign in and say hi. Yeah. That'd be good.
Yeah. The other one that you were talking about is the dropping water on cars.
No, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Small. Oops.
Well, two stories about that. One was, you know, when you're taking off with this load of water, this helicopter's heavy.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you need a little room to get going. So Wayne Lannon's out there one day, one of the other pilots one day, and there's a Cadillac pulled up and stopped right in front of us, about maybe 150 feet. And Wayne says to one of the paramedics, who's ground handling us, he said, hey, get that guy to move 50 feet one way or the other. You know, we don't mind him watching, but move him.
Right.
So the paramedic went over and talked to him, and the guy just gave him this crazed look and didn't say anything. And the paramedic kind of went, okay. So he went back. So Wayne comes back in, and he goes, I thought we were going to move this guy. What's going on? And he says, well, I tried, but he wouldn't move. Wayne goes, oh, okay. another full load of water, 412, 360 gallons of water. Picks up, takes off, gets over the Cadillac, flares a little bit, drops 360 gallons of water. This guy's Cadillac convertible fills the car, right?
Oh, it's a convertible.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I'm landing behind him, watching this, laughing my tail end off. And the car literally down on the springs. And the guy's completely wet, and he's kind of shaking his head. And he opens the door, and all the water runs out.
Just like a movie scene, right?
Yeah. And he left, and we never heard about it. Never heard a word. So the other one is...
Because he was like, I'm not supposed to be here anyway.
I'm not supposed to be here anyway.
Right.
The other one was we're working on a fire on the 118 right at Topanga. And that's a historical corridor for fires to go from there to the beach.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know Southern California very well, a primetime brush fire in Santa Ana conditions in LA County will burn an acre a second.
Okay.
A second.
Real fast.
Since I live right there
Yeah.
in Simi Valley,
Yes.
in Chumash Indian, that's Windy Valley, and we'll get up to what? 60, 70 mile an hour winds.
We've
And
flown
when
in
he
100.
said Santa Ana, that's the Santa Ana winds. You can hear about it in Steely Dan songs. So, so you've got wind blowing, fanning a flame,
Yep.
and blowing hot ashes everywhere else into dry tinder all over every acre,
Yep.
everywhere.
Which has to make just serious updrafts.
Oh, it's like fighting Muhammad Ali with one hand tied
Wow.
behind the back. It's not
Wow.
that fun.
Wow.
So you're flying a bird in.
Yeah, flying one of our Blackhawks, what we call a Firehawk, which is, I can't say that very often without dribbling saliva down my mouth because they are beautiful helicopter to fly. So I go in and I'm running the show, and I tell everybody, look, this fire's on the north side of the 118, right? Wind's blowing out of the north.
Yeah.
We'll work on this fire over here. But if it crosses the 118, that is priority number one, period. I don't care what the chief's telling you to do. I don't care what that guy's telling you to do. We're going to focus on any spots, right? So sure enough, it spots across the 118. And I got visions of it going, it's going to go to the beach now.
Gotta go to the beach now, yeah.
So I'm in the Blackhawk, 1,000 gallons of water, wind's blowing 60, 65 knots. The road's like this, and I come by it, I look out the window, here's the spot. Now, the spot's in a bit of a shadow, so it hadn't gone anywhere yet because it's on the lee side of the hill.
Right.
So I make the call, hey, we've got a spot fire, I'm number one. I go back and turn around, everybody come over here, and I line up on this spot fire, and it's maybe 40 feet by 40 feet at this point. And if I hit it, I'm going to be a hero, and if I miss it, I'm going to be a goat big time. And that doesn't stand for greatest of all time. It stands for goat. So I'm really concentrating on hitting this spot. You got the speed and you're looking at it, and you got to remember that the water's not going to drop normal because the wind's going to blow it. So you're going to have to get
There's a lot of
a little further.
Right.
Wow, there's a lot going on to estimate dropping water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
How fast are you going?
Well, I'm going about 75 knots, but I'm only going about 15 knots across the ground because the wind's blowing.
The rest of it,
So train A leaves the station at 3 o'clock, and the water comes in at
yeah.
Right?
So
think about this. Follow along with what he's doing in your head, even though you don't know what he's doing in your head. Try and balance this crap.
So I look at this spot, and I kind of have a mental picture of where I'm going to drop from. And the other ships are lining up behind me, which is a good thing because if I miss, I won't look too bad.
Right.
And just as I get close enough that I'm now committed to drop, a CHP pulls up and parks right beyond the spot fire, right, with his car. And you got about a quarter of a second to decide whether to drop the water or not. Right. And you know that some of that water is going to carry beyond that. There's nothing you can do about it.
Exactly.
So I punch off 8,333 pounds of water, and it hits the spot, carries on, hits the CHP car. Now, what also happened was this guy was supposed to be stopping the road up the hill. When he moved, everybody else moved.
Oh,
and I'm dropping water with foam, which is sleek as snake snot. I mean, this stuff, you can't even stand on it. So the water hits his car, carries across all 3 lanes of the 118 going eastbound. And the first 2 cars that come down the hill go into this stuff and spin like a pair of figure skaters And I'm watching this. I'll roll the haircut. I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, God, it was a great career while I had one. They're probably screwed now.
Thank you. Thanks.
The water hit the spot. We put the spot out, so that was good. I got a little credit, you know.
Right.
So I pretty soon we wrap it up, and I go back to Air Ups, and the phone rings. You know, hello, this is Lee. This captain that I know is on the phone. He's like, great drop. Oh, my God, we were going to the beach. He said, oh, you hit it. You nailed it. It was perfect. Great shot, Lee. But that CHP is pissed. And I'm going, well, okay. He says, I didn't tell him your name. I said, oh, good. He says, but I told him that every morning at about 7:30, this blue Subaru STI goes right by there.
So go rent a car.
Yeah, so thanks.
Go rent something else.
So nothing happens for about 3 months. And one day I'm at the desk and the phone rings and pick it up. Good afternoon. This is Senior Pilot Lee Benson. May I help you? Yeah, this is CHP Officer so-and-so. I said, good afternoon, officer. How can I help you? He goes, I'm the guy you hit with a drop about 3 months ago. I'm going, oh, okay. And he goes,
did you dry out finally?
Yeah, did you dry out finally? He says, you know, I was mad for about a month. And then I stopped and reconsidered and thought, wait a minute, he was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing.
Right.
And I'm the dumb idiot that parked in front of where the drop's going to go. But he says, there was water in the shotgun barrel. It was actually water. It was water in the car, in the barrel, in the thing. And
which sits vertically like
which
this.
Sits vertically, yeah.
That's funny.
And the other incident with the CHP, if you know the glass church that's down in Palos Verdes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, if you look at that, there's a slight hump right at the top of that hill, right? So we go out there one night, there's a traffic accident, everybody's hurt, CHP's there, they're parked just beyond the top of the hill a little bit. Didn't leave me a lot of room to land. Thank you very much. And I come in and land behind him. Well, he had failed to put it in park. It was in neutral, and he didn't have the parking brake set. And the rotor wash blows the CHP car off the hill, and it's rolling down the road, right? And I'm going, uh-oh.
Hey, I just got those guys not pissed at me.
And the officer sees what's going on, and he realizes if this car crashes, the pilot's not going to be the only one in trouble.
Right.
So he runs and jumps into the car with his body hanging half in and half out.
Yikes.
And evidently pushed on the parking brakes. The car slams on the brake. He spins out of the window onto his belly and slides across the pavement. I'm sitting in the helicopter going, ooh, this could be bad.
Road burn.
Road burn. Yeah.
So that is the fun you can have when you're not tinkering on cars and you're flying helicopters.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. And you know what? Thanks for coming and talking to us and telling us the stories. And again, you guys are going to see different shots coming up on screen and seeing different stuff from him. We've got some. I know there's one beautiful shot of him fighting a fire. Is the bird in that shot? Is that that's Firehawk?
Yeah,
Firehawk.
Yeah. And I hope. Let's hope that they're able to copy the video. It's very poor film, very poorly shot. But GTR 1, the first one I owned, had a LS motor in it. And we put on 8-into-1 exhaust in it.
Ooh, yeah.
And
it sounds like a Formula One car.
Yeah.
It really, really, this is a video of it on the dyno. And I'm telling you, man,
it's screaming.
It's screaming. But here's the problem with that. Now, the new one doesn't have 8-into-1s. And the reason for that is at 3,000 RPM in the old car, it went silent. It was eerie.
Really?
You'd be driving the car and it'd make it, and it'd just go away.
Wow.
And you could cruise along at 3,000 RPM all day long, although you're going pretty fast.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Wow.
But when you go back into the throttle and it got up to about 34.
Then it was loud, huh?
Oh, my God. Yeah, it was loud.
Yeah.
We had it at a dyno over here in Satakoy. And they're, big professional shop. Lots of cars have been in there. We put it on the dyno. When it hit that range, it cleared the shop. There were people from next door were running
away.
And in the video, if we get to put it up, you're going to 8,000 RPM? 7,000.
Yahoo.
Yeah.
Yahoo.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
The new Ultima GTR 2.0, but I call it, has got, you'll enjoy this, it has a RHS block, all pro heads.
Ooh.
hair-up injection.
Yikes.
A daily dry sump.
Ah.
I forget the crank at the moment. Corolla rods, JE pistons. It's
it's a
nice
piece. Yeah,
it's a piece.
And
How
you're
big?
using all Motec to control it.
Yeah, it's all Motec.
Motec.
It's Motec M130 with 2 PDMs in it.
Okay.
A Motec, one of the smaller Motec dashes, and then a Motec 125, both dashes in it.
Wow.
It's a pretty cool car.
That's going to be very
No
fun.
doubt
How
about
big? How big a motor?
427.
427.
676 horse.
Yeah.
But it makes about 645 foot-pounds of torque.
How much does the car weigh?
21.
2,100 pounds.
That's a ride.
There's some more fun math
That'll
for
put you
kids
back in
at
the
home.
seat and hold you there. Yes, for a very long time.
For a very long
time. Yeah. Outstanding. Now, we may have to go for a ride now.
Oh, yeah. I can never get the damn thing done. Yeah.
Well, awesome, Lee. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. And, of course, like I said, we'll put up some pictures and some stuff so you can see a little bit of what he's talking about. And, Jeff, anything? It is your show to sign off.
The only thing I thought was, and we don't have time to do this, so maybe we'll save it for another thing, but my dad was an A4 pilot in the Marine Corps. He flew choppers before that. And while you were telling those stories, I was flashing back very quickly. My parents were divorced. My dad was cross-countrying in A4, and we're in Iowa. And he went to Chicago and refueled and then flew over the house, called his mom. She called us, and we stood in the backyard with my younger brothers and sisters with tea towels, and he gave us a Blue Angels show for about 10 minutes in over Boone, Iowa. And it's true because there were so many stories after this where people were saying he flew in through my back door and out through the front door. He took the star off the top of the grain elevator, all the stuff, which of course didn't happen. But by the time he got to El Centro, he was taking a bird to El Centro. By the time he got there, the MPs were waiting for him, and it almost cost him his career in the Marine Corps. But so we'll tell that whole extended long story at some other point. But it's great stuff. I mean, thank you for coming. This has been a lot of fun.
One last story on that line. LA County went out and was saving Santa Barbara County's butt on this big brush fire. They're all, of course, friends of mine.
Yeah.
So they're coming back. They've been fighting on the fire all night long. So they know exactly where I live, and I live on the end of a hill, kind of by myself out in the country in Somas. A Black Hawk went over my house at about 145 knots at about 50 feet at 5 a.m. in the morning.
And this was 1965 or 66, I think, in Iowa, and they thought that the Russians were attacking Iowa, which of course, man, this is stupid. But great stories. Thanks for coming, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome.
So
thanks again for coming in.
now we have to top this. How are we going to do that? From now on, we're going to have to come up with better and better stories. But I hope you enjoyed this, and stick around because we've got more planned for you.